Taking a look at the wide receiver room depth chart, is there enough depth in the two deep, or do the Aggies need a couple more receivers in the portal?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, looking at this wide receiver room, we're kind of at that spot right now with the portal where you can start to go, okay, we're getting halfway through this portal period, and we can kind of look at the depth chart and go, do we have enough guys here, or do we not have enough depth here? Where are we at when it comes to that? So looking at this position group where it sits right now, I've kind of made a little bit of a two deep and, a little bit past that. But right now, your starting wide receivers, I predict for next season, and this is no surprise, is Jahdae Walker, Noah Thomas, and Moose. Those are your three guys. Then is when the two deep conversation starts. So the transfers, Javon Harvey and Cyrus Allen, that you've already brought in this portal period. Then you've got the up-and-coming, going to be a sophomore, Micah Tease. And then you've got the two more freshmen coming in the 2024 class, and Ernest Campbell, the speed demon, and then the late addition, Isaiah Williams. So that's kind of where you're at right now. And I think has a legitimate, shot to see the field a ton and play a relevant amount of snaps for the Aggies at some point next season. I mean, and you got to remember, this is wide receiver is a position that so far in the portal and in the recruiting class, you have lost so very much talent. I mean, run through what and then even just to the NFL draft. Anias is moving on. Evan Stewart's in the portal. And then you think you got in the recruiting class. So Cam Coleman's gone. You lose Draylon Miller. You lose a ton of guys kind of there. So you've not only lost receivers to the portal. Jordan Anthony's gone. You lose receivers to the portal. You lose receivers in the recruiting class. And then you lose one, a player like Anias Smith to moving on to the next level. That is a lot to replace at this position. And, it's kind of funny looking back at last year's roster, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to count and make sure receiver where we at. Looking back at the roster last year, there was a ton of wide receiver depth and a ton of talented depth to where, Micah Tease and Ray Cottrell were like your low-end guys. You weren't going to need them last year. And now, I think this receiver room, I would go get one more player. I feel really good about where this receiver room is when it comes to Jahdae Walker, Noah Thomas, and Moose. We know who Jahdae Walker and Noah Thomas are. I think we feel pretty confident in that. And Moose, I think we know who he is. Whatever went on last year, whatever the lack of playing time for Moose was, it made no sense to me, and I'm sure no sense to all you everydayers, no sense to anybody. We know who that guy is. You know how good he is. The fact that he was not on the field last year, really until Coach Fisher was gone, is insane to me. I mean, that's just it doesn't make any sense. Micah Tease, I think he could have a breakout year. Javon Harvey and Cyrus Allen, the transfers, those guys can help you. It would not surprise me to see one of those guys mix in and play a whole bunch of snaps. Receivers, a position where you're going to have players switching in and out of the ball game. It's not like it's going to be Jahdae Walker, Noah Thomas, and Moose on the field the whole game, and that's it. You're going to have some guys switch in. You're going to have some players come in. Maybe you see an Ernest Campbell come in. He's a small guy, but maybe he comes in and he does jet sweep or a bubble screen, something to get him in space with the football. They might do different things with different players based on skill sets. So knowing that you have those three guys kind of as the guys, as the starters, assuming right now where we're sitting right now, I think those are going to be the guys. And then it makes me feel a lot better, the two portal additions you've already had. These are guys that have played college football, succeeded in college football, and I think that they can come in and really help this football team, whether it's from a playing a lot standpoint or whether it's from a depth standpoint. I think these guys are going to come in and be a big help. So, looking at that, it makes me feel better about this position group. And the late addition to the recruiting class of Isaiah Williams is another great addition. But, Ernest Campbell and Isaiah Williams, I don't think you're going to want to see them a ton. We discussed, they're freshmen, they're young guys. We don't, you don't want to. The goal is to not have to be in a position where you're playing freshmen a ton, unless it's somebody like a Terry Bussey. And so that's where those two guys. I don't see them playing a ton. So that kind of leaves you with, I think, 6 receivers that are going to play a ton of relevant snaps. And I wouldn't mind going to get one more receiver in the portal. Segment 2 today, we're going to discuss, I've kind of done a rough how many scholarships are left, and then we've talked about what do we already have in the portal, what do we need in the portal, position group wise, amount of players wise. And I think where we're at in the portal, you can add one more player to the wide receiver room and still add at your some of your positions of need that are more pressing, than some of the others. So yeah, this receiver room, I feel pretty good about it. Now, listen, losing a Cam Coleman, losing a Draylon Miller, losing Evan Stewart, losing a Nice Smith the next level, that all is very hard and painful and hurts, because obviously those players are really, really good football players. But I think that Jahdae Walker is going to be a star. I think Noah Thomas is going to continue to develop into who he is. And then I think Moose, once again, I think he is an NFL wide receiver that was incorrectly utilized last season. I think he is going to be utilized correctly under this coaching staff. I think he will be used the right way, and you're going to get the best out of him. And that's going to really help the depth of this room. But I just feel like there's a lot of, you could argue that you got unproven guys, and obviously the 2 freshmen and the Micah Tees. We, didn't really see him much until the bowl game. Then you've got Jahdae, Noah Thomas, Moose, who have played some snaps in college football, and so have Harvey and Allen, the 2 transfers. So you got 5 guys, I think, with experience. The issue then becomes injury. We know how this works. We know how the wide receiver position works. You're going to lose some players. It's a position where it's easy to get banged up. You're getting hit across the middle. You're laying out for footballs. There's a lot that happens that can get receivers banged up. And, think about it. If Jahdae and Moose are down, ankle turn and a concussion, right? And they're down for 2 weeks, and then you need Tees and Harvey to step in. That's when it starts to get thin, and thin is concerning. So I wouldn't mind going and get one more veteran proven receiver in the portal, but I do think talent wise, gritty wise, this wide receiver room's in a spot to be successful in 2024, but I would maybe go get one more actual, scholarship, legitimate guy to help make this room deeper in 2024. We're going to run through the scholarships. How many scholarships are there? Give or take. Don't have the exact number. It's a rough estimate. And we're going to run through that. What positions do you need? What do we already have? What left is there to get in the portal? We will have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. It pains me to say, but the NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, and it's the easiest, best way to find parlays that other people like. You should feel confidence in because everybody has placed it. FanDuel is what I use when I sports wager. It is a ton of fun to use. The app is easy to use. Everything about FanDuel is quick, convenient, and just makes watching ball games a ton more fun. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. So this is a interesting conversation, one that I am quite looking forward to having. And it is kind of where we are at scholarship-wise, what to go get in the portal-wise. Rough estimate. That's very key here. Rough estimate. I believe there's about 11 or 12 scholarships left. That's just a rough estimate running through some different things. So we're going to say 11 because we're going to downplay it. I think that, another player hit the portal, which happened, and then, you're not going to have Dominic McKinley signing with your class, added up a couple more. So it was 10. I think it should be 12 now, but we're going to say 11 just for the sake of the experiment and, making sure we're fair here. So you already have in the transfer portal, I was going to read the additions, but I will go ahead and talk about the players here. So you've got the corner, Will Lee from Kansas State. You've got the receiver, Javon Harvey, we just got done discussing. We've got Alex Howard, the linebacker. Cyrus Allen, the other receiver we just got done discussing. Trey Jones, the safety. Garrett Miller, the tight end from Purdue. DeRicky Wright, the safety from Vandy. You also bring in Wesley Watson, Kansas State receiver, played for Coach Colin Klein, but he is going to be a PWO, preferred walk-on. So don't really count him to this conversation. And then the former Georgia Bulldog kicker, Jared Zirkle, are your current portal additions. So I didn't write down kicker. We'll write down kicker 1. So as of right now, you got 0 quarterbacks, 0 running backs. You've got 2/3 receivers, depending on if you want to count the preferred walk-on. 1 tight end, no offensive lineman, 1 kicker, no defensive lineman, no edge rushers, pass rushers, 1 linebacker, 2 safeties, 1 corner. So that is where we are currently at transfer portal-wise. And it sounds, like I said, 11, 12, around there, scholarships left. So we're going to say 11 for the experiment. And I kind of want to run through where I think those scholarships should be used. So quarterback, I'm very happy where we're at quarterback-wise. It's a conversation that we had the other day. It's one we're going to have again. There's a few things I'd like to change up to that conversation. I thought back on the arguments I made, and I want to kind of change that conversation up a little bit. We'll do that probably next week, week after, once we get deeper into off-season stuff. So quarterback, I'm good there. I feel good about the quarterback room. I don't think you need any additions in the portal there, especially with the young guy Miles O'Neal coming in. I feel pretty good with the position. We know who you got in Marcel Reed and Jalen Henderson. So I feel pretty good there, quarterback-wise. Running back-wise, this is a position where I think you could go either way. It is a position, once again, that like receiver, players are going to get hurt. Like the offensive defensive line, you're going to have players get hurt at the running back position. This is one where I don't think making an addition is necessary. but I would not yell at you if you brought in a running back in the portal. I wouldn't be upset. Also, knowing that you don't have one in your 2024 recruiting class. So I look at that and I go, I always talk about how important it is to have an addition at each position group in each recruiting class, because, you are always making those additions. You are always trying to, you always want to have a new receiver in the in the recruiting class. A new running back, new receiver, new quarterback. You want to have all those positions filled, because that's just how you create your depth down the road. So knowing that, I wouldn't be upset if you went and got a young receiver. Now that's the thing. If I was going to go get I keep saying receiver, I'm talking about running back. I wouldn't mind going to get a young running back just as an upside play. Not as, I wouldn't go get a 1-year rental. I wouldn't do that, because I think you've got enough talent to not really be in a position to need a 1-year rental. I would go get a younger guy, former 4-star who didn't get a ton of playing time, that's looking for a new home. That is the kind of addition I would make in the running back room, and I don't think it hurts you. So that's why I lean toward another addition an addition to the running back room, just knowing you don't have one in the 2024 class as we sit right now. And I wouldn't mind a young guy to add some depth to the room. Wide receiver, like I said, we discussed a minute ago, I would be fine with one more. I don't think it's hard to sell playing. It's going to be hard to recruit more portal players, because a lot of these portal players, you're selling playing time. I don't know how, you're selling right now playing time to a wide receiver with your 2 veteran additions, a couple of talented young freshmen, up and coming sophomore, and then, the guys who we think are going to start, and Jade Walker, Noah Thomas, and Moose Muhammad. So, you know what I mean? It's hard to make that pitch, make that playing time pitch to some of these guys. So, I don't think you can go get many more than one receiver. Tight end, I don't. You have your addition there in. I keep forgetting. Is it Garrett Miller? Garrett Miller. I keep forgetting his last name. I know it's Garrett. I forget his last name. I don't think you need another tight end after Garrett Miller. I feel pretty good about that position group. I think you're fine there. You'll have enough talent there that you're going to be fine. I know you lose a Jake Johnson, but I just don't. I think bringing in a Garrett Miller, and I know that Coach Klein likes to use tight ends, but I think you got plenty of depth there. I do. And then you've got the freshman coming in, Eric Carner, right? And Eric Carner, the freshman from Illinois, will be coming in. I don't think you need an addition there. I think that position group's fine. Then we get to, as y'all everydayers know, where I yell at a wall for about 20 minutes about the offensive line. I would go make 3 additions. And this can be, okay, you could, how do you want to spread those 3 additions out? Do you want to go 1-year rental and 2 guys with 3 years of eligibility left that are upside plays? Do you want to go get 2 1-year rentals and 1 guy with upside play, 3 guys with upside play, 3 guys with 1-year eligibility? I think that I like those additions at the offensive line. I always talk about how the offensive line, how important just having the dog mentality is. Y'all know how important I think that is at the offensive line position. So going to get some young guys to help develop the technique that didn't play a ton at their first stop, I'm not upset about that, knowing, hey, we can go get some offensive linemen that with a year or 2 of development can start for us. I think those are some good additions, but I also wouldn't mind a proven tackle 1-year addition or a proven tackle that's got 2 years eligibility but might only use 1 and go pro. Like, I wouldn't mind additions like that. But regardless, you need offensive linemen in the portal. I mean, they're going to come. You're going to get them. I'm just saying you need them. Then on the defensive side of the ball, I would go get 2 corners. I would, in all honesty. You obviously have Will Lee in the portal class, and then you've got the 2 guys in safety. I have 0 safety just because I think you've obviously brought in 2 and Trey Jones and DeRicky Wright, and then you've got a really talented safety class when it comes to the recruiting class. You got Jordan Pride and Miles Davis. I feel pretty good about that, room right there. And then the additions you've already made. So I think you're fine at safety. Linebacker, I wouldn't mind seeing you go get one more on top of Alex Howard, the transfer from Youngstown State. If you went and got one more, I wouldn't be upset about it. And then I would go get a couple pass rushers. I have 2 pass rushers here and 1 defensive lineman. I think that defensive line is a position where you're still in a really good spot just based on how much talent you had heading into last season. And even though you lost a ton of that talent in the portal this offseason, you're still so deep at that position group that I don't think you need a ton of additions. I wouldn't mind a pass rusher too, and just a more interior defensive lineman. I think if you went and got those 3 players to be in the front 7, or you 4 players in the front 7, if you got the linebacker addition, I think that would be enough to have the front 7 in a good spot next year. And maybe, once again, a couple guys that are younger and can develop and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're at scholarship wise in the portal. I wouldn't mind, there's still a lot of additions to be made, and the coaching staff has the scholarships. They're going to make those additions unless something, crazy happens late in the recruiting class and they add, something like that. But I feel pretty good that this coaching staff has a lot of work to do in the transfer portal, and there are still a ton of additions coming to this Texas A&M football team. We're going to talk about a player that entered the portal, why these portal additions need to be of high quality, and once again, you can't lose Terry Bussey. We'll have those quick conversations coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. So, Tony Grimes announced he is entering the portal. That is one of the weirdest Texas A&M tenures I have seen in a player. There was so much hype from me. I was excited about Tony Grimes. The 5-star. He goes to North Carolina. He has a good career, an okay career, not a great career, not a 5-star career. And I kind of was like, hey, I think he can come here and fix this and turn his college football career around and get himself in the NFL draft. There were mock drafts heading into last season that had him as a 3rd-round pick, a 2nd-round pick. And he's banged up. He can't get on the field. He transfers. Listen, that was hard on this team because we talked about the issues you had at corner. I think Tony Grimes could have made a difference there. I really do. Knowing that he wasn't able to really get out there, it hurt this football team. It did. And so seeing him into the portal, it was, like I said, plain and simple, it was a very weird tenure for Tony Grimes during his time at Texas A&M. But and that brings me to just a short conversation of this is why your portal additions need to be quality players. You don't want to go in the portal and just get guys that are, this guy's okay. He's an okay football player. He was fine at his previous school, but can he come in and make a difference for us here? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. That's kind of, I think, sometimes what some portal additions look like. You don't want those portal additions. Obviously, you want players that are going to come in and make your football team better. Help your team. Make this team every day deeper, more talented, and just flat out a better football team. Those are the players you want in the transfer portal. And I think last year, aside from, a Johnny Walker and a Jalen Henderson, it was the transfer portal class was a whole bunch of guys that were just kind of like, didn't see you on the field, if you were on the field, you weren't great, that kind of thing. So I think I like this year's portal additions thus far, but I think they need to be high quality and football players that are going to come in and help make your football team better. The last real quick conversation that I want to have before we call it a day here is about Terry Bussey. Now that Dominic McKinley has officially flipped his commitment from Texas A&M to LSU, I think the conversation needs to be had. Hey, like, listen, Terry Bussey, retweeted, reposted that Dominic McKinley had flipped from LSU. Now, LSU is trying to flip Terry Bussey as well, as are many other schools. You got to hold on to this guy. I mean, I'm not going to read much into him retweeting that. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, what does that mean? Oh, does that mean he's gone? And we're not going to do that. But I am going to say you do have to hold on to Terry Bussey. We know who he is. I've never watched tape on a player and just been like, he has to be on this football team. And that's how I feel about Terry Bussey. You have got to hold on to him. If you hold on to him, I think he's going to come in and have an impact the second he walks on campus. He's just so talented, and you cannot lose him. So that needs to be goal priority number one for this Texas A&M coaching staff. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you, everydayers, for being here. New listeners, appreciate you. A lot of fun, as always, coming up here next couple weeks. Portal stuff, off-season stuff, different conversations to be had. Everybody have a great rest of your day today, and we will see you tomorrow.